Good evening, everybody. Seems like it's been a long process going through this draft. It's been a different process. We knew it would be. We knew it would be challenging, but in the end, we feel very good about the results, as we do every year after we draft these young men. We talked about Chase yesterday. Really nothing to add there with Chase and Alex, unless you would have specific questions. But moving into today, and with Anthony McFarland, we were able to add a running back that gives us a little change-up characteristic, different than the guys we have. He has really good vision, one-step cut quickness, and very good finish speed. He's had a lot of big runs just finding that crease or finding a bounce to the outside where he could finish. Kevin Dotson. Kevin was not invited to the combine. We thought he should be. We voted for him to be there. He was unfortunate, didn't get to the combine. He did play in the East-West game. And again, we had nice grades on him in the fall. You get to see him at the East-West game. You follow up with him. And he did a nice job. He posted a workout. Again, it's the best that we can do. Workout situation we watched, felt comfortable. We did a video interview with Kevin. And he really impressed us as a no-nonsense football guy. With a unique body type and size and strength, and plays with a nice tenacity. So we're excited about him. Antoine Brooks is someone we've been following really for 2 years. Antoine talked about coming out early, decided to stay, and he played in a unique position at the University of Maryland. It's really relevant to today's NFL and college football. He's half a linebacker, he's half a safety. He will be a safety in our defense with the ability to play in packages, because that's what he's done, and he's done well. He's very versatile. He should be able to be a special teams contributor as we move along. And Carlos Davis, kind of a unique story. He and his brother, twin brother, they both played together at Nebraska. His twin brother was drafted a round earlier. We did video interviews with those two young men during this setup, and it was entertaining, to say the least. Very smart young men. Their football is still on the rack. They went to the combine, and he went in 4.79 in a 300-plus body. So what we're looking for him is a definite upside, and we hope to continue to see how he develops. We're in the process of moving through free agents. We won't be signing as many as many know. We signed a bunch of XFL guys, and we will be signing less college free agents. It's a little bit of an unknown market, but we'll see how that works out, and we'll have those results most likely at some point this evening. Coach?
Nothing really to add regarding the guys. I'll obviously be available for the questions, but I would just like to compliment Kevin and the scouting department on a job well done, man, in the midst of some unusual circumstances, unusual for all globally, but I was really comfortable throughout this weekend. And, I think that's how you judge your preparedness, your level of comfort in terms of your ability to execute throughout the draft. And it was a good weekend for us. We're excited about the young men that we were able to acquire. And now it's our job as a coaching staff to get these guys assimilated into the program, and not only them, but all of our guys as we get into the virtual offseason starting on Monday, and we're excited about that.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions now for Kevin or Mike. First question from Ed Bouchette at The Athletic. Ed, go ahead.
Mike, how do you do that with your new draft picks? How do you get them assimilated with everything that's going on?
It's going to be challenging, but Ed, my mentality, it's going to be challenging for everyone globally. So from that standpoint, it's fair. It's our job to be innovative and forward in our thinking in terms of utilizing all the tools and technology at our resources to get to know them so that they get to know us, so that we can begin the giving and the receiving of information that's associated with them getting started. So we're excited about it.
Okay, next up, Jerry Dulac with the Post-Gazette. Jerry, go ahead.
Mike, Kevin had mentioned that Brooks is kind of like half safety, half linebacker, which is perfect for today's NFL. Is he capable of assuming that role that Mark Barron played alongside Devin?
I think there's a lot of guys in today's game that fit that bill, and it becomes easier and easier to forecast those capabilities because you see them do it on the college field. And as Kevin mentioned, you saw a lot of those things on his Big Ten tape. And so it made it easy to potentially forecast his abilities to do those things. We're excited about him as a safety. We're excited about him as a sub-package player. We're excited about maybe what he could bring to us as a special teamer as well. That 220-pound body is a very useful body in today's game for the reasons that we've been talking about.
Okay, next up, Jim Wexel from 247. Jim, go ahead.
Mike, you were talking about Claypool's physicality. Your receivers are so physical. Juju, your tight ends, James Conner coming out of the backfield. Was this your intention to make the offense this physical in a new kind of way?
You know, it's just a trait that we value. It's organizationally. I think it's a trait. Physicality. It's a brand of ball that we want to play, regardless of position. We believe it's an asset to victory for us. And so, you know, when you can get some wide outs that display that trait, that's exciting. And Claypool, whether it was contributing on special teams or doing things with the ball in his hand or as a blocker, displayed those traits in ND.
Okay, next up, we're going to go to, let's see here, Dale Lawley from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Dale, go ahead.
You guys seem to have gotten some players that maybe had a little bit more inside information on this year than maybe previous years from Notre Dame or guys at Maryland that you might have had a little bit more off the field knowledge of. Was that by choice, or was that just something that happened along the process?
You know what, Dale? I mean, you know, what's a little bit odd about this class for myself and coaches, let me do the count here. I think we have 5 seniors and 1 underclassman, which is unique because we've been heavy on the underclass draft. So a lot of these players we've been watching for several years. I mean, Claypool was someone, you know, you thought about he might come out last year. He decided to stay. You know, Alex just ascended this year. And like I mentioned yesterday, you know, Mike Butler and Dan Rooney went in there during the fall and liked him. And then, you know, I got to see him at the East-West. We liked him there. He shows up at the Combine. You know, he runs 4.66, gets us excited. So we kept the evaluation going on him. Anthony McFarland, for even a redshirt sophomore, when our scouts went in there, when he was not eligible for the draft, they said this one's going to be one coming up. And unfortunately, he had an ankle injury this year that slowed him down. Kevin Dotson, you know, again, a self-made senior, worked hard, played next to a great player in Robert Hunt. The two of them together were very interesting. And like I mentioned, Brooks, we've been watching for a couple of years. And Carlos was kind of like Alex Smith. He crept onto the scene late, you know, when he ran the 4.79 and the 300 plus. We doubled back and make sure that we liked what we saw. And the more we talked to him, the more we evaluated, we liked it. So I can't say this was just one-time insider kind of information because, again, the majority of these guys we've known about and been watching them for a couple of years.
Next up, Joe Rutter from the Tribune Review. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, do you think Dotson will have a chance to maybe compete right away for any playing time? And do you envision Filer moving into left guard to compete, or is he going to stay at right tackle?
You know, his ability to compete for playing time will be etched out as we get to know him and so forth. We like his pedigree. We think he has the type of talent that will allow him to do so, but he'll write that story with how he performs. And obviously we're very comfortable with Matt's position flexibility. And those are some things that are going to be determined, maybe not by what he brings to the table, but maybe by what others around him bring to the table in terms of guard depth or tackle depth. So he provides us that type of flexibility. We got complete confidence in him, and we're excited about taking a look at what the young guard has.
All right, next up, Mike Pursuta from DVE. Mike, go ahead.
Mike, similar train of thought on Carlos Davis. Kevin mentioned upside. I've heard there's a lot to like developmental-wise with him. Is he developed far enough that he might end up at nose?
You know, we'll see. He played nose for them. He's a strong kid. He's a talented athlete. He's a two-sport player there, played through on the track and field team as well. But, you know, those things will be determined on the field as they should. We can spend a lot of time in these type settings speculating.
Next up, Brooke Pryor from ESPN.com. Brooke, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, I'm just curious with your familiarity with Maryland and having Matt Canada on staff, how much did he weigh into scouting a guy like McFarland, and how much did you see your two Maryland guys when you were watching your son at all?
You know, we have inside information on a lot of our picks in most years. You know, you can draw the parallels because of the relationships and make a story out of these two. But, you know, the reality is we work our tails off to gather intel on everyone that we select. And, you know, this one's just probably more obvious from an outside standpoint. Matt's experience with those guys in that program obviously was an asset to us. But we have a lot of information come to us in a lot of ways in most selections that we make that add to our comfort.
A couple more questions here. Tim Benz is next. Tim from the Trib, go ahead.
Kevin, Mike just spoke a little bit about Davis at nose tackle from Nebraska. I'm wondering if you could speak to how you were approaching this draft when it comes to the nose tackles and in general, what you guys are looking for now out of that position with Hargrave gone, and how you might want to parse out the snaps with what you have on the roster or what you were trying to fill at that position before you got to the seventh round.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional 3-4 nose tackle, again, you don't want to say it's dying, but it's less and less a base defense. You know, when you're in a defense 75% of the time, different sub packages. I don't know if anyone really has a base defense, even though you do say you're a 3-4. So Carlos at 300, again, 3+, he's 305, 308. Could he play inside at nose? Sure, he doesn't have the great length to be an end in that schematic, but he also, you know, like he can play as a rush defensive tackle, like Javon did on the inside. So base defense, I'm sure he will line up at the nose, and then in the sub packages, he'll be an inside rusher. But he does, again, when you're running 4.79 at that size, and Coach mentioned they threw the shot and discus at Nebraska. They're very athletic. I'm mentioning he and his brother, but I don't know if we've seen the best of those guys yet.
Okay, Will Graves, the Associated Press. Will, go ahead.
Kevin, you mentioned having more seniors, maybe 4-year players than usual. Is that just a coincidence, or was there something about this class and maybe the circumstances surrounding the draft that led you guys to get players that maybe had a little bit more maturity, at least in terms of experience?
No, in fact, after we took Dotson, I said, Coach, we're going against the grain here. 3 seniors, 3 out of the first 4 picks. And it really wasn't any intention. It's just the way it broke for us this year. And we're very comfortable with that. We always like to, try to catch them younger because they're a little fresher. But when you get the senior usually comes in at a different maturity level because he's either finished school or he's closer to finishing school. He's played that extra year at the college level, which always we think benefits these players, but we had no plan to do that. A kid like Kevin Dotson, who was a non-combine guy, we never did a physical on, we never timed him or worked him out. We were just real comfortable with his ability to play football, and that was our intention going into this knowing that we would have some players like this that we had to make decisions on. And when the bottom line came out, it was always going to be, how does he play the game? And, in Dotson's case, we valued that.
Before our last question here, if you can make sure you mute your line, please, everyone mute your line at this point in time. Our last question, Brian Batko from the Post-Gazette. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, you drafted Dotson to add to the offensive line, but he was pretty much purely a guard at Louisiana. Do Zach Banner and Chuks Okorafor just give you the kind of confidence that you needed to not pursue more of a tackle lineman in this draft?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, we've watched Chuks and Zach grow over the last couple of years, and I think there is a comfort level that both of those guys are NFL tackles. At what level, we'll see, because they've been backups or spot starters or package players, but we're comfortable with where they are. And, Dotson is a guard, and he hasn't played any other position. And that's fine, because he'll be a guard with us. And as we mentioned the other day too, with the change in the rule this year, being able to dress the extra offensive linemen, sometimes the single position guys, they're going to have more value going forward.